Let's go. One more shot. Ooh, cause I love you. All right. So we're doing the game of love today, and we're going to talk about grief. Ooh, I shouldn't smile when I say that word because this is serious, serious business, people. Very serious business. And I'm not talking about dying. I'm not talking about somebody dying. I'm not talking about grieving a lost one. I'm talking about grieving your past. I'm talking about looking at things that caused you grief or that altered your life or that were experiences that you really don't want to remember. But at the same time, you're kind of like, okay, maybe I do need to remember them, but do I want to go to therapy and sit there and talk about it ad nauseum? So there's like this in-between place where everything that's happened to me, you know what the common denominator of everything that's ever happened to me is? I was there. So now, this is interesting because I might have physically been there, but at the same time, I might have had altered states of consciousness. I might have different perceptions of what was happening there, depending on what was happening in my life and in other things within me. So being there doesn't mean you're there. But nevertheless, these certain things happened in all our lives. You know, we have names for them. You know, the more serious things we call traumas, and the other things, which are sometimes called microtraumas, are just these things that happen that were devastating, altering, saddening, stripping, um, anger inducing. And at the time, there was no realization of the impact, and there was not necessarily any processing of the feelings. And so you moved along, and maybe you thought you were over it. And believe me, I'm the queen of loving to do like quick and dirty things to get over things. However, what I'm learning as I get older and as I hopefully get wiser is that all these things that happened got stuck in me in certain places. Now, this is great when it comes to good memories, right? Like, I love the idea that certain memories of people that have passed, like my father, my brother, are in me still. And those memories, I can have euphoric recall as I remember pleasant memories of my experiences with these people who are gone. But there's other things that I don't want to look at and I don't want to feel them. And yet they're there and yet they affect me, right? So what can I do about these things? And what are they and what do they mean? Well, again, I don't have answers. As a coach, my job is to help people find their own answers. But if you haven't looked or aren't looking at the stuff that's affected you, and let me just throw a couple of things out here that I've heard from people that they have been negatively impacted by and are talking about 30 to 40 years later. Not getting picked for the baseball team. Their mother or father doing or saying something that really shifted their own perception in what they perceived was a negative way. Some person, place, or thing or situation when they were very young, rejecting them because of some sort of physical characteristic. It could be color, it could be body weight, it could be something, but it's usually something that, we look at or talk about as being like outside the norm of the perfect looking little child. And so there are experiences that we've had, like I was a fat child, so I was called fat constantly. And then I had pimples. So as soon as I lost weight, I got acne. And then somewhere in the middle there, I also had braces. So I was like a shit magnet for bullying teenagers. But yeah, we didn't call it bullying back then. We just called it like obnoxious brats that you just kind of had to take it until you couldn't take it. And then you just punched him in the face and then it was all over. So anyway, back to constructive coaching and grieving. There are things stuck in me that were impactful and that moved me deeply, and I wasn't aware of it at the time, and they're in me. And so there is a process that needs to happen, if you're going to self-actualize. If you are going to become the greatest version of yourself, the best person you can be, there is a necessary process for you to take a look at certain things that have happened to you that you still talk about with energy. Like, again, it's 40 years later, and every time you talk about it or think about it, you still get mad. That's because it's in you and in your body. And that's okay. Experiences in your body are not necessarily bad, but if it's continuing to affect you in a negative way and you haven't decided what it means to you or you haven't processed it, And I'll give you an example. Like my mother said something to me once, and I have repeated it often when I have felt sad or devastated or rejected. And it's this, you're a lot, okay? And one day I said that to her, and she corrected me, and she said, Nicole, that's not what I meant. And yet I took it to mean a certain thing. And I can't label her, what her intentions are, what her background is, because I know other people who are like, oh yeah, I brought that up to my mother, and then she said this, and then I talked to somebody else, and they told me my mother's a narcissist. So I'm like, oh, okay, great. So now you were stuck and angry already. You try to go back to the person who hurt you to process it. Then you decide that they're to blame even more, and then you label them, and then you basically carry it with you for the rest of your life because it's somebody else's fault. You don't have to live that way. There is a better way. There is a more spiritual, ethereal, and cathartic process for consciously dealing with your past in the present day in a way that can majorly impact and change your life. If you're interested in talking about it more, you can message me or visit NicoleDevlin.com. I'm always happy to hear from anybody about anything.